Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all between. Jason, my brother, Fred, my brother. How you doing?
Very
All
well.
right. How are you guys?
Good. I painted the room black and yellow for our special guest today. So I'm super excited. We're all super excited. We've all been longtime Striper fans, decades, and
since the yellow and black attack when I was 14.
Check this out. Okay, so as you guys know, I was a special effects guy, and I went on to do tour consulting, all that kind of stuff. Jason recorded a little ditty called "I'll Always Love You" by Whitney Houston, Black Sabbath. Fred writes for MetalTemple.com, and so here's my first meeting. I got to do my first professional gig with Striper at a sold-out show at the Odeum in Addison, Illinois. I got to polish that baby. Took me hours. And then, of course, this is Robert coming back after this radio promotions guy, whoever he was, went off the road with him in the Ferrari, and everyone was freaking out. And look at these young, fine gentlemen, myself and Michael Sweet. And, so that was my first thing with Stripers always. But like I said, like I was a homeless dude. I lived in my car. Take Hold of the Flame was the last song I'd listened to. But leading up to that was always Striper. You know, Free, they always had hope.
Absolutely.
Music's always fun, and I'm a singer, and he's fun to sing. You know what I mean? And Striper's they have the best background vocals, best guitars. Jason, you and I joke all the time that, it could be worse. We could have Michael Sweet's schedule. Like, you don't even know how he sleeps.
Hardest working guy in the business, yeah.
Yeah. During this interview, he put out 5 albums. But 4. Anyway, let's bring on Mr. Michael Sweet.
Hey guys, what's going on? Good morning, or
Michael.
wherever you are.
Good morning. I'm in Chicago. Fred's in Chicago. Jason's in South Carolina.
Okay, so good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Still, it's 11 a.m. where I am. So,
yeah,
absolutely. So let's clear this thing because everyone's going to be thinking, "How's Oz doing?"
Oz is doing good. I mean, he has another surgery scheduled, and he's going in tomorrow and having the surgery. And they're saying it's going to be less invasive, and he should bounce back really quick. So we're feeling good about it.
Good.
Right on. And for you guys who want to support Oz, you can go over to Striper.com and get this special edition fundraising shirt. And Striper.com, and of course you can check MichaelSweet.com, get all the goodies out there. Dude, how busy is your schedule? Like we can't you're like it says on you're the most busiest man in Hollywood. You're in entertainment.
Well, the thing is, it's two things. I love what I do, and I love the opportunities to do what I do. But also at the same time, I've got to work hard. There's no other choice. It's like I'm not one of those guys that likes to look back on the last 2 years and say, "What did I do?"
Right.
Not much, and a lot of people kind of live their lives like that, and that's okay. I'm not condemning that, but I'm the opposite. I'm built to go and to go at a very fast pace, and that's just the way I'm made.
No.
So when you're scheduling for the next thing, is it 2027, 2028?
It is.
Literally, because it has to be because of the business cycle and the tour cycle and everything.
But it is. What it is when I sign an agreement with a company for a project like Sunbomb or Soul, it just dawned on me all these groups that I'm a part of start with S, which is weird. Striper, Sweet and Lynch, Sunbomb, Soul Driver. It's like, okay, enough of the S type.
All great, by the way. We received many of those.
But when I sign an agreement for any one of those, it's a 2 or 3 album deal, and they're kind of scheduled out roughly of when I'm going to do it. And then I've got all this other stuff scheduled out on our calendar. If you look at the Striper calendar, it's literally filled for the next 2 years, and I mean filled.
Right.
Yeah. So it's kind of crazy, it's a little overwhelming, but at the same time, I like a good challenge, and I work really well under pressure. If I didn't have that pressure, I don't think I would work as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like that a lot too, and because, working in film, especially special effects, we're working on something right until the camera rolls. Doesn't matter how long you've worked on it. You're working on it until it's go time.
100%.
Yeah. Now, speaking of Michael, one thing I always wondered, I know you Striper for a while. You guys like to record at Spirit House, I believe it's called, right?
Yes.
In Massachusetts.
Yep.
When you're doing these other projects, do you typically fly out to record in person with, like, say, Tracy or whoever the other artist is, or do you do a lot of home recording for some of these other things as well?
Well, it's different for every project, but for the most part, it's usually the project is recorded somewhere else, and then I track my vocals here, right behind my camera right now. I have a little studio. I close the curtains. I have a little ISO booth in there, and I track all my vocals there. Got a great mic chain, and I've been doing it for a long time, so it works, and it saves us some money and hassle and stress. There's nothing like being in a studio that's $1,000 a day or more, and you've got to deliver and you can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So here I can just take a break or whatever. But yeah, with Sweet and Lynch, I flew everyone in and tracked at Spirit House. And George tracked his guitars out in LA on his own. For Sunbomb, everything was tracked in LA, and then I tracked my vocals here.
Okay.
For Striper, we all go to Spirit House and track together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just different from album to album.
Gotcha. Yeah.
Okay, so Will Doty, is that how you say his last name? I don't want to mispronounce it.
Boy, I sure hope so, because I've been calling him Will Doty, and if it's Dowdy, I'm in trouble.
It's not Doherty, and he's been with Poison since 2008.
Yeah, he's a vet, man. He's been out touring and doing a lot musically. Really talented guy. We're not going to have Oz, obviously. We're going to have Will, so it's going to be different, but it's going to be great. Will is a top-notch singer and musician, and we're going to go out and do it. And I don't want this to sound like we don't need Oz or to come across that way at all. But I mean, I've been doing these acoustic shows on my own. Me walking out with an acoustic guitar. And doing a lot of these same interpretations of the songs you hear on the acoustic album. So my point is, I'm not worried. I feel like we're going to be okay, because we're going to have Rob with the real kit, Perry on bass singing, Will singing and playing keys. We're going to be fine, and it's going to sound different, but really cool.
It'll work, yeah. Speaking of that, I went to you played an acoustic show down here in Abbeville, South Carolina, at the Opera House.
Yes.
Yep. That was fantastic, by the way, too. I took my 16-year-old son. Who's
I love that place.
Oh, it's a beautiful old place. Yeah.
Beautiful. And that little town was cool.
Yeah.
Good food, good coffee. And the people showed up. It was amazing. And again, it was just me and an acoustic guitar. I go on scared to death. I have nothing to hide behind,
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, Michael, just so you know, that show cost Jason after the show an extra $1,200 because he had to buy a looper pedal and an acoustic for his son.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best. That's the best right there.
It was great because I've been trying to get him into some of my music, and he's like, it's not really happening. He's listens to whatever,
Right.
And we left that show that night, and it was a day or so later, hey, Dad, I think I need an acoustic with a pickup in it and one of those looper pedals, So yeah, you made an impression on him. You sent him down down that path. So
I was listening to Healthy Amps for the first time the other night, and Soldiers Under Command came on, and my son, 23-year-old son, walks out. He goes, "Is that acoustic?" He's like, "Kick ass," you know what I mean? So my kids were raised on Striper. The album's fantastic, man. A to Z.
Thank you, man. I tell you a real quick reason why I think it works with Striper when we be a metal band, loud metal band, and then do an acoustic album. Right. We're a little different from most other metal bands, maybe even all metal bands, in the sense that we've got the harmony guitars going, which some metal bands have, but we've got the 3-part vocal harmonies, which I don't know of another band that has that. I could be wrong, but it makes it easy for us to move over to an acoustic realm and translate that way. It just works somehow.
Background vocals are beautiful on this.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Harmonies are fantastic, and you and Oz singing together. I mean, you know, there's always that and then Perry adds.
Perry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No
Holy
doubt about it. Yeah, Perry's really brought a lot to the table.
Oh yeah.
For sure.
Obviously as a bass player, but as a singer as well. He was actually part of a gospel quartet when he was growing up.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, so he sings. He can sing real low. He can sing real high. You know.
Yeah. Now, Stryper to me has you guys are the Rocky of bands. You know, like when you started out, you were the underdog, and then your people were rooting for you, and then we always believed in you. We always believed in Rocky growing up, you know, and we always believed it doesn't matter what you came out with, it was always good. You're always cool to the fan. You always were different to the fans early on than the model is now. I think you kind of influenced that a lot.
Well, I mean, the thing is, the reason for that is when we started, and we have the same mentality now, it's all about the fans. And I know every band says that.
Right.
Every band says, yeah, it's all about the fans. You know, we have the best. Yeah. But it really is true with Stryper. And the reason being is because the most important thing to us isn't the music. The music is very important, but it's the message. And the reason why is because the message will live longer than the music.
Yeah.
And at least that's what we believe. In other words, when we step into eternity, that's when the lyrics and the message really kicks in, not the music.
Oh. Sure.
And that's what I mean by that. So it's really important for us to have a one-on-one relationship with our fans. And they're really not fans. I hate that word fans. I call them family and friends because that's what they are. And if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be here talking to you guys. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and what's interesting, going back to the Rocky connection, within like your last surgery on your eye, I had run into 3 people who had the same thing.
Wow.
Like, you know how it's just weird. Sometimes you just run into something.
Coincidences. Yep.
One guy was a
strange.
football player, college football player, and the 2 other guys were boxers.
Oh, yeah. That makes sense. I mean, because you got, once your eye, you know, I had a partially detached retina my whole life. I got hit. I was playing in a playground field in elementary school, and one kid was swinging a bat and threw it up in the air, and we were all running for cover, and it hit me in the head and knocked me out, gave me a concussion. Oh. And from that time forward, I've had a partially detached retina. And they say, the eye doctors would always say, keep an eye on that, keep an eye on that. No pun intended. Right. And eventually it gave way. And now the weird thing is my other eye, this good eye, has 2 tears in it with laser surgery to keep it from detaching. So I don't know what happened to that eye. I really don't know. It might have been when Robert and I got in a fist fight outside the garage when we were teenagers. I don't know.
Well, good thing you weren't playing jarts, man. That could have ended like Now, I do want to, before I forget, I did want to mention The Amazing Grace, I got such a heavy Elvis vibe. As soon as I started hearing it, I'm like, yes. It reminded me of I know that, you know, Elvis was big in your house growing up.
Yeah.
Huge in my house growing up. And that just, as the heathen out of the bunch, I start crying.
Oh man, that's awesome.
I just came to see my uncle is in the hospital. They're doing some major tests on him. And I came and I saw Oz's news, and that song really touched me.
Wow,
at that time.
That's amazing. Well, very interesting.
People have always said about this, that, and the other. I don't know how many times I've listened to this, and they never would have listened to you if they had known it was Stryper. And they're like, this band is fantastic. I'm like, yeah, get your head out of your head. A good band is a good band. You guys are up there with Iron Maiden, Judas Priest. You know, you guys are solidly up there. And anyone who says anything else is full of shit.
Thank you, brother. Well, two things. Elvis, interesting you say Elvis, because I grew up in a house with Elvis as basically the 6th family member.
Yeah.
We had velvet pictures of him on the walls. I kid you not.
Nice.
And we listened to Elvis every day. Every day. My dad would play Elvis at some point. He would go through and play everything from Elvis to Black Sabbath. And when we go, we were staying at my Nana's house, Maxine. She would play Elvis. We'd go camping. She'd put in an 8-track of Elvis. I mean, always Elvis.
Right.
And my grandmother would pay me quarters to sing Elvis, you know,
Oh, wow.
and to dance like Elvis, move like Elvis, you know, and all this stuff. And so Elvis was, I think, somehow it rubbed off on me a little bit, and it's kind of always in there. And Battle Hymn of the Republic, that was a very Elvis influenced version as well.
Yeah.
On Soldiers, you know, whoa, whoa, how I do the lyrics again. It was very Elvis. And the other thing is that you said people, you know, that kind of work against this or are always knocking the band down and, you know, being disrespectful and stuff. I really think it comes down to this. It's a hate for religion. It's a hate for anything that's God-based.
Sure.
Because there's no other reason to hate Stryper. I mean,
right.
Why would you hate us?
Just like girl bands. Don't call them a girl band. It's a band. Like, I mean, how many Baptist bands are there? None.
Well,
what do you? Come on.
I mean, here's the thing, and I put this invitation out to any musician out there. I don't care who you are. If you're mocking Stryper and you think we're a bunch of pussies, which has been said many times, I'd tell them this. Okay, why don't you go and learn the entire Soldiers album, note for note, and tell me how you do.
Yeah.
Right.
And I'll leave it at that. And I'm not saying that egotistically. I'm just saying try learning our stuff. Try playing it. It's not easy stuff to play.
The solos alone. I mean, go ahead, dive into that one.
I mean, just go.
Most musicians that they love your band. Musicians,
a lot do. A lot.
Band.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's mind blowing because I meet people all the time that I would never expect to be a Stryper fan, and they say we're a fan, and we saw you 3 times, and I have a Bible. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. John 5, I ran into him. I've told the story many times, but in the studio when Bob Marlette was producing my Truth album, second version, John 5 stopped by, and he's just sitting there. And we're talking. He said, "Yeah, I've seen you guys a number of times. I still have a Stryper Bible." I'm like, "Wow, okay."
Yeah.
He shouldn't tell Nikki Sixx that. Don't tell me.
Yeah, what do you think about that whole rigmarole? I know you probably don't talk out against other bands, but saying talk out, but
it's not. The thing is, people misinterpret when someone gives an opinion as talking out or negatively about other bands. I really don't ever talk negatively. I just kind of give my opinion, and I always try to do so with respect. I think. I don't know the story behind what happened. So it's not really my place to go in depth about it, or really anyone else's for that matter. It's their business, not ours. Yeah. But, you know, I don't know that I would have handled things that way.
Right. Yeah.
Or we would have handled things that way if we parted ways with someone. And some people might say, "Oh, but you did with Tim Gaines," and it's like, no, we didn't. There were a lot of issues internally, and we kind of had to part, or it was not a good environment. So with John 5 being the replacement, I mean, it doesn't really matter because fans are buying tickets and going.
Yeah.
Right. It's a new generation of Motley Crue fans.
It really is.
We were talking about it last week. I said we've already seen them 10 times. We're not, the newer kids who got in them with the dirt, it doesn't matter to them.
100%. Now, I will say this too, real quick. Mick Mars is a great guitar player.
Oh, he's fantastic.
And I thought he was my opinion, not trying to stir the pot. I'm just saying what I've always thought. Most talented guy in the band. That was my opinion. Sure. And then John 5 is an amazing guitar.
Yeah.
Unbelievable, phenomenal. So
Glenn Campbell, holy! You ever see him play Glenn Campbell?
Oh, dude, yeah, he's
just anything.
He's next level musicianship. But I mean, between him and Mick, it's apples and oranges. But again, it comes down to the legend that Mick is,
Mhm.
Right.
and having invested all that time into the band, and he not only did a lot musically, he did a lot in terms of the concept and all that kind of stuff. So he's an integral part of the band, and you got to respect him and respect that.
And when the announcement was made that Oz wasn't going to be joining you for the tour, and people like, oh, are you still going to tour? People have no idea the outlay of contractual finance goes along with that and everything else. And you guys are like Rocky. You're going to take the punch, roll on, everything will be okay.
Well,
But
and
still,
also
behind the scenes, I'm sure it was crazy the past week in your office.
It's been the past month, because building up to this and trying to figure out how to say, when to say it, what to say. And
Gotcha.
the other thing is too, we, even if there weren't contracts in place, this is what we do. This is all we do. What am I going to do? Go get a job at Home Depot for a month?
Yeah.
No, it's like we have to keep moving. And if the same happened, a situation where I couldn't do a tour, and the guys, it's matter of fact, it has happened in the history of the band.
Yeah,
they went on to Europe without me, and you have to keep going, or everything will fold.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
Firehouse just went through that, of course, with CJ Snare, and they're in the middle of a tour, so they still continued on, and it's not disrespect at all to CJ. It's like you said, the logistics of touring and everything, you have to carry on.
You're so right. You're so right. And it's not about disrespect. Now, if you came out and said, screw him, we're going to keep going, I mean, you could verbally turn that around into a negative. But it's really, if you go out and you do it the right way, and you are respectful, and you're honoring the person who's not able to go or what have you, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing to be ashamed of with that. And I hope fans understand that.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, your journey, it's you, Lynch, Bonamassa, like you guys are the we just are in awe of the schedule. Like, damn, you know what I mean? But, the other thing, I love it because, my dad was an entertainer. He was a magician. So we were around jazz musicians and all this other stuff, and musicians play.
Yep.
And I never understood bands sitting out for 5, 6, 7 years, boom, then do something, what happened to the song? You're a songwriter, so you have to, your head will explode if you don't keep, getting all this out. And your writing schedule, why you're face down writing a whole album, people are canceling shows because they got a broken nail, and you got your eye hanging and you're upside down writing an album. No minute shall be wasted in the Sweet household.
No, because there's no point to that. It's you will eventually look back on time in life and have regrets if you live like that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have regrets. And it's like, if I can sing, if I can play, if my fingers are moving, I don't care if my, both eyeballs are hanging out or whatever. I'm going to be there trying to make it happen, and I'll give it my best shot. But I love what I do, and I still have these opportunities, and I take them. I don't take every opportunity. I have people coming to me, a lot more people coming to me, and things that I have to pass on.
Yeah.
And I can't do everything, but I do love what I've done so far, and there's a lot more in store for sure.
Great.
So how did you choose the songs for To Hell with the Amps?
Well, as a singer, it's got to be something I can sing with passion and feel that it's going to work. That's number one. Number two, I was playing a lot of those songs, like I mentioned earlier, out publicly. And they were working, and I knew they would work if Stryper re-recorded them. A couple of them, I thought, okay, this might be interesting, like Loud and Clear. Like, that's a metal song, and a lot of notes. And typically, a lot of notes don't work on an acoustic guitar.
And I love that intro on that guitar run is just badass.
Yeah, and see, that's a typical that you might say, oh, I don't know about that on acoustic. But it somehow works.
Right.
And it sounds really cool. And we had a blast doing that one. And we'll be playing that one as well live, obviously.
And I really like what you did with Lady, because of course you just go into it thinking, oh, this is going to be the same song, and it's totally not. You know what I mean?
I'm assuming. Are you
guitar bit underneath there?
Are you referring to Honestly? I'm assuming you are.
No, there's Lady. Love the second guitar bit. Harmonies are Striper great.
Okay. I thought you were talking about Honestly, because we did a totally different version of that.
And Honestly is different too. Yeah, the new intro, you got the flamenco feel going on in there.
Really,
I love the jazzy high note that you did. I was like, right on, you know what I mean? I wasn't expecting that, you know. But yeah, I mean, if you hear these songs thousands of times like we have, and then you get to hear a different version of it.
Oh, it's cool. Yeah, that's very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question. How many times do you trip up into the original version? Like, oh.
Well, I for me, not at all, because I've been playing acoustically these songs for years, and it just kind of, when I go back and forth from the electric version to the acoustic version, it's like getting on a bike. You know what I mean? Because it's implanted in my head.
Yeah.
Now, for the other guys, I don't know how that would be. I'm assuming it'll be the same way. I'm not sure, but this is definitely a first for us to go out and do the acoustic tour as Striper. That's a first.
And part of your signature sound is, of course, your amazing background vocals. You have a beautiful solo in Lady. The last bass note ringing out, that was really cool. And then the harmonics at the end of Honestly. Like, you created a really cool vibe with that. And then Calling on You is one of my favorite songs of all time.
Awesome.
And, it just hits me in a happy place, man. You know,
that's so cool, man. And I tell you, my biggest hurdle is and I'm rehearsing now. You guys should see my studio. It's a wreck. I've got new pedals everywhere. I'm building a new pedal board for the acoustic gig, but there's a looper on there. But, I'll tell you right now, it's one of those things where I've got to learn all of Oz's solos. Yeah. And I'm kind of doing my own interpretation and throwing in bits and pieces that people recognize, but yet I got to do my own thing. So, I got a lot of work over the next week before we go to Nashville. So my back's sweating a lot more these days.
And then always there for you, of course, cool guitar chords working within themselves was really cool what you did there.
Yeah, and that one is a solo version. I did that on my album Real.
Okay.
So it's basically the same version.
Yeah.
And I like the nice subdued background vocals on that. Still great Striper harmonies, but different.
Nice. So
that was really cool.
When you come to the live show to see us, they won't be subdued. We'll all be screaming.
Right. But you know what I mean? It's not but of course, I need to mention this because the origins of Stripes, apart from the biblical verse from Isaiah, is the bumblebee, right?
Oh, yeah. There it is.
And let me tell you, I was hoping and hoping and hoping that you would be able to produce a Van Halen album while Eddie was still alive, man. I had my fingers crossed on that.
Well, I mean, the
dream project that would have been.
Even a co-producing thing, because Eddie was the ultimate producer for Van Halen. He was the guy, the perfect producer for Van Halen.
Absolutely.
But what I felt was going on towards the end is I felt like they were losing some of their vision and passion in terms of the style of songs that fans wanted to hear.
Right.
Like, could you imagine if they had gone in with Roth, not Sammy, and done an album that was comparable to the first Van Halen album?
Right.
I mean, it would have blown open all the doors. People would have been like, what is happening? And I feel like I could have helped them do that only because I'm such a huge fan.
Right. Yeah.
And I know I could sit down and write a song that has that same energy as On Fire.
Yeah. You get it.
Oh, yeah.
You get the guitars, you get the singing part, you get the brothers part. There's a whole, I mean, yeah. I was hoping, man. I was hoping.
So when I said that stuff, some fans thought I was being disrespectful. And
not at all.
there's no bigger Van Halen fan in the world than me.
Right. Me and Jason were talking, like, could you imagine?
But you know, it gets written off because I'm that Christian guy from the Bumblebee, you know.
Yeah, I don't care. You know, you're Michael Sweet, frontman, badass guitarist for one of the best rock and roll bands to ever grace the planet.
Oh man, well,
period.
I tell you,
hey, they got a problem, send them up to Chicago. We take care of them, no problem.
To Uncle Tony.
Hey, Tony Bag of Donuts.
And I've always said, Michael, if I had to pick my 4 faces on the Mount Rushmore of singers, you're in there. Chait, Dio, Halford, and Sweet. I don't think you can get better 4 metal rock singers than those 4.
And if they added another one, you'd have to go with Steve Grimmett from Grim Reaper. That guy's voices.
Yeah. He was great too, man. And you know, he was a really wonderful guy. Really great guy. And that, to me, that's so much, it's so much a part of the greats is, are they nice people? And yet Dio, 100%, Halford, 100%, and Tate, absolutely. I mean, Queensryche went through their situation, but every time I've met Jeff, he was always a gentleman and a sweetheart, you know? So,
yeah, and Todd LaTorre's a really cool guy. And I was when you guys, who should I do a duet with? And I'm like, Todd LaTorre.
Todd's a great guy too, and a
absolutely
singer, as we all know. But you know, it's there's something to be said for putting the time in. You know, with a lot of these bands, that's the other thing. When you're talking about 40, 45 years, 50 years, some of these guys, that's insane, man. And they're still singing.
Right.
It's kind of mind blowing.
Yeah. And you know, what's your real quick before we wrap this up? How long do a vocal warm up and a warm down do you do?
You know, I don't do that nonsense. I'll be honest with you. I think, and maybe nonsense is too harsh a term.
It's just different schools.
Yeah, it's different mentality. I do warm up, but just a little bit. And what I find is when I warm up too much, in other words, there are guys literally that open for us, and you can hear the singer warming up for 3 hours before the show.
Wow.
And then he goes out and does the show, and you can tell he's struggling.
Yeah, you're already tired.
He probably warmed up a little too much, you know?
Sure.
You got to be careful of that. You really do. You don't want to overuse your vocal cords before a show. Guys like Dio, he used to smoke a cigarette, you know, and throw it down and run out and sing. No warm-ups there.
Right.
And you know, so when people say, oh, you have to warm up or you're not going to do well, okay, tell that to Dio, you know?
Right.
Absolutely. Well, are you busy
Before
today?
we let him go, though, can I just say one real quick thing, Michael, is this was going back a few years ago, and you were playing at the Arcada Theater in St. Charles, Illinois, which you'll be back again in September. I got tickets for that show as well.
Yes.
But my wife, our daughter was going through some health issues at that time. We had tickets to your show that night. We left the hospital, and we just didn't feel like doing anything and being around people who just wanted to go home.
Yeah.
So we got tickets to see Stryper tonight. So we went, and that was the most unbelievable medicine for us because, first of all, you killed it, and your songs, as you know, are so inspirational and so uplifting. It was much needed for my wife and I. So I'm glad I can tell you face to face. Thank you for that. That got us through a very, very rough time.
That's awesome, man. I'm so happy to hear that. And how is your daughter?
She's great. She's great. She got through her little issue, and she's doing just fantastic. She's 36. We actually just saw her this weekend for her birthday and Mother's Day. She's doing great.
That's fantastic.
I like telling that story because it just proves the power of music, and your lyrics are so inspirational.
Incredible.
Yeah,
incredible. And again, at the end of the day, that's what matters.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
Those stories that live on and that had a powerful, profound effect on people.
Yeah.
That's what matters, you know. And the music is just icing on the cake, but that's the cake.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, like my brother, passed away. We do this podcast because of my brother and others that we know have taken their own lives due to PTSD. He was a veteran, and so he was the album stack that I got, the yellow van, and I'm like, what is this? And I found Stryper because of him. But after that, what bands do you listen to when you're ready to listen to music? Because and Stryper was right up there, and because okay, now I feel that I can feel good.
Well, I'll tell you what. For me, when I listen to bands, yesterday we had lunch outside our screening porch, and I threw on some Mexican, Mexican music, just real Mexican radio, and it was awesome. And then I don't listen to a lot of metal.
Yeah, I listen to Brazilian jazz on Sundays.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Great.
I love that stuff. That's amazing.
Yeah.
I don't listen to a lot of metal, and I guess because I'm around it so much. So we play it, and then when we tour, we hear it and see it with all the other bands and stuff, and I enjoy it and love it. But when I get home, I kind of like to wind down a little bit more, you know?
Yeah, we listen to everything, but Fred is the resident metalhead. He just doesn't. It's not stray.
That's all right.
He's trying to get me.
Get him to the blues club. Come on, Fred. Come on, buddy.
It'll never happen.
But Michael, thank you very much for your time. Striper.com, michaelsweet.com, tour dates, tickets, links are up there. Also, go buy this Oz Fox fundraising t-shirt. Of course, go get the new album, To Hell with the Amps. And thank you so much. And we also want to make sure we love you, Oz. And we'll see you soon on the road, hopefully. Michael, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so much.
Remember, some album coming out in June and Striper album coming out in September.
Awesome.
Right on. So that's the one that you just finished wrapped up writing now.
Yeah, and I can't wait for you guys to hear that. That's it's all I can say is just wow. You know, it's got something really special to it. I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
Awesome. I can't
write
wait.
reviews
I
for
want to thank my cousin Roy for getting me the first pro gig. Look at that. April 3rd,
Nice.
Working Crew for Striper. Still got it. Couldn't take it out of the album. I would have destroyed it.
I write reviews, so I'm going to put into my editors for your 2 albums coming up, Michael.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I hope you dig it. 2 totally different albums. Some bombs more raw and dark, and Tracy uses the term. Oh gosh, what does he use for this style? Not like Sabbath. It's more in the Sabbath vein.
Yeah, because you dropped the music video 2 days ago, I believe.
Yeah, 100%. And then Striper, this album, it has a little bit more melody to it. It's very heavy, but it's a little more melodic. And choruses you can sing along to a little easier. And we've got a couple songs on there, too, that'll take you back to, like, Calling on You.
Nice.
Great song, man.
So it's really cool, man.
Awesome.
Thank you, Michael, for all your music, for all
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
And by the next time we talk to you, you'll probably have another 100 albums out. The hardest working man in show business, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Sweet. Thanks for joining us.
God bless you guys. See y'all later.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Michael.